Hi, and welcome back to the Chapel Show, where we take real legal issues and bring them to people in a way that we can use them. Today, we've got a valuable guest. Not only has she had a long and distinguished tenure in state government, but she's also been the director of one of the most important commissions in the state. It's my pleasure to welcome Dr. Warren.
Thank you, Rod. It's so good to be here.
Thanks
for the invitation.
Absolutely, and thanks for being here.
Yeah.
Dr. Warren, first let's tell our viewers about you.
Okay.
Yeah. Now you're a doctor. What did you get your PhD in?
I do. I have a PhD in sociology and applied social sciences. So my emphasis is on social disparities.
How about that?
Yeah.
Does that work pretty closely with the Missouri Commission on Human Rights work that you do?
It absolutely does. Yeah.
How long have you been the director there?
7.5 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Has it gone quickly?
It has flown by.
Yeah.
I love my work.
Is it one of those positions where there's just a little bit of work, or is there a whole bunch of work?
There's a lot of work to be done. Unfortunately, there's a lot of discrimination in Missouri.
Yeah.
So I don't believe we'll ever work ourselves out of a job because there's some bad actors out there that don't treat people fairly.
That's true.
So we've got a lot of work to do.
Yes. Yes. Well, tell me, what's the mission of the Human Rights Commission?
Well, it's our mission to enforce the Missouri Human Rights Act, which is Chapter 213 of the revised Missouri statutes. But so we are the enforcement arm of that law. But not only do we enforce the law, but we also work to educate Missouri citizens about what the law says. So we provide training and we do outreach. We partner with a lot of organizations around the state so that Missourians know what their rights are.
Sure.
Yeah.
And is the Human Rights Act, is that something that's fairly new, or has that been around a while?
It has been around. It's older than me. Okay, so
all right.
It has been around since 1958.
Well, then that's way older than you.
It is. We won't say how much older it is. It predates the Civil Rights Act of 1964.
Is that right?
Yeah, we could be proud of in Missouri that our human rights laws are older than the federal laws.
And there's a distinction between Missouri law on human rights versus the federal law, right?
There is. There is.
Yeah, and we'll talk a little bit about that maybe as we go forward.
Okay.
Tell me, what kind of human rights violations do you look at?
We enforce discrimination against several protected categories that are pretty much aligned with the federal government, but they would be discrimination against an individual because of their race, or their sex, or their disability, or their age, their national origin, their religion. Their families with children are protected under this law in housing. So it covers really everybody. It is truly a human rights law. It covers everybody.
Wow.
So the areas that we focus on are housing, then employment, and public accommodations, which are like schools and restaurants, hotels, places that are public.
Well, and that's like 99% of where people are, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So either you're at home, you're at work, or you're out someplace between home and work.
Exactly. It covers your entire life.
Wow. Well, that's good. That's good. Well, I guess problems can arise in any of those areas.
They can. They can.
Do you have one of those that takes precedence in terms of you have more issues that arise out?
Employment. Most of our cases, probably about 84% of our cases, are employment discrimination. That's around 1,500, 1,600 cases a year that are employment based. And then we also, that's followed by housing, which is just right at this point 6% of our caseload, or just over 100 cases per year. And then 10% of our cases are public accommodations cases, or around 200 cases. Yeah.
And now, tell me about the commission itself. Do you have a big staff? Everybody talks about these government bureaucracies. No?
We don't. Because of the economic realities, our agency has actually reduced in size over the last 10, 15 years or so.
Wow.
So we're small, we're lean and mean.
Well, no doubt.
We have about 30 employees statewide. So we have a central office that's here in Jefferson City. That's our main office. We have also an office in St. Louis, and both of those two offices you can actually walk in to file a complaint. So that's the distinction with those two.
That's good.
Kansas City has a smaller office, and then we've got a office down in the Boot Hill in Sykeston, and then one in Springfield. Yeah.
But if you want to see a person at the commission, you need to come to Jeff City or be in St. Louis.
Right. Right. But you can always give us a call.
That's right.
Always give us a call or hop online and and reach out to us on our website.
And you've got some great materials. I want to talk about those a little later, but
great.
I saw your website out there.
Yeah.
And so let me try to get this. 30 employees throughout the state?
Yeah.
Has there been a decrease in funding for the commission?
There has been.
Sometimes,
there has been. Not unlike a lot of government agencies, we've kind of felt the brunt of that as well.
Yeah.
So our budget has diminished. Our staff has, at one point, I think we had closer to 60 employees. That would have been around 2,000, and now we're down to around 30. So,
I got you.
And the caseload hasn't diminished.
Well, that was my next question. I was going to say, well, there must be some corresponding decrease.
Not at all.
No,
so we do as much as we can with what we have, and we work hard to get those cases. And fortunately, we haven't experienced much of a backlog at all, so we're able to get through those cases. And we have some very talented investigators and staff that are great at what they do, and so they're able to get through it.
Yeah. You've got some seasoned folks over there.
We do.
Yeah,
we do.
That helps.
We have folks that have been around for over 30 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's important. That's important because if you're going to actually do the work, right?
Yeah.
And we're going to talk a little bit more about that. So we've got a number of cases that we have, and in terms of if we had to break down those employment cases, do you have some of the issues that you see that are larger, like race discrimination, or is it religious discrimination, or maybe even disability?
Yeah. Well, the way that breaks down, it's really surprising, Rod, because the highest percentage of our cases are retaliation.
Really?
44% of our cases claim retaliation, and that is that an individual has been, say, fired from their job because they filed a complaint with the Missouri Commission on Human Rights.
Oh, I see.
Almost half of our cases claim that. And then that's followed closely by sex and race.
Okay.
Nearly 30% of our cases claim race and sex discrimination. And disability is about 22% of our caseload. And I'm seeing that number eke up every year since I've been in here a little over 7 years. And it was in the high teens, and it's eking up every year because people are getting older, where people are finding themselves with disabilities. The baby boomers are getting older. They're, at one point in your life, most people are going to find themselves disabled in one way or another, whether it's their vision or their hearing or ability to walk. So all of those are impacted. So that number is creeping up.
That is huge.
Yeah.
That is huge.
Yeah.
I mean, and that probably strikes on a excellent point, because a lot of people think about discrimination, harassment. Oh, I'm not a person of color. Oh, I'm not a woman. But the truth is that these laws are civil rights laws that are designed to protect everybody,
They
right?
really are. They absolutely are, and our numbers prove that up. Age is 19% of our discrimination cases, and that's, everybody, all flavors of folks are, we all get older.
Right, if we're lucky.
That's true. It's a good thing. Considering the alternative, it's a great thing.
That's right. That's exactly right.
So it definitely impacts everybody.
Oh, yeah.
It's not just black and white.
No. And even on the age issue, if you think about it from the other perspective, if you've got housing discrimination, right? Yeah. Where folks, maybe a landlord doesn't want to rent to people with kids.
Right.
There's no reason that children ought to be discriminated against simply because they're there, right?
Right.
Yeah.
We've partnered with an organization in the St. Louis area called the Equal Housing Opportunity Council.
I've heard of them,
Yeah, and they have done some excellent work with us in the Cape Girardeau area.
Okay.
And so there's some interesting research that was done, and actually some reports that were aired related to families with children in that area and discrimination, because it was pretty blatant.
Was it really?
Yeah.
And they just didn't want families?
No, and for years had kept families with children out of these particular housing units.
Wow.
So that's illegal.
That's
totally
terrible.
illegal. Yeah.
That's terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's funny, I've been an advocate on some level for civil rights for a while.
A long time.
Yeah. And I have approached it, I guess, in two ways. You are the legal arm, but there's a whole other segment of whether it's nonprofits or church-related entities, and some of those might describe discrimination as a sin.
Yeah, they might.
Yeah, they might. Yeah.
They might.
Tell me, once you get a case, what becomes of it? What do you? What's the process? Maybe just a broad overview.
Okay. Well, it's as relatively simple process because you start out by really just filing a complaint.
Okay.
And you can do that a number of ways, whether that is picking up the phone and calling our office and working with one of our intake specialists who will help you put the complaint together, so you're not out there on your own. They will help you draft that complaint and work with you to put that in writing.
Right.
Or you can walk in, as we said, and our intake specialists will also, that's in St. Louis and in Jefferson City offices.
Okay.
They will help you put that complaint together. Or you can also hop out online and just fill out the questionnaire.
Okay.
And that gets the ball rolling. And then once you do that, the complaint is sent to one of our investigators, and our investigators we have about 20 investigators.
Okay.
Probably half of those are attorneys.
All right.
Although they don't serve as an attorney in this particular situation. We are a neutral fact finder.
Right.
You know, which a lot of times people don't necessarily understand.
Yeah.
You know, they call us up and think that we're going to be their representative.
Right.
And we're really not. That we're to collect the facts and to determine whether it's more likely than not that discrimination occurred.
Right.
So, and oftentimes businesses might feel that we're on the side of the employee, or landlords might feel that we're on the side of the tenant, but that's not the case. We are neutral. We are gathering facts.
And that's a huge point. Before we talk any more about the process of filing a complaint and those things,
Right.
The work of the commission is to decide I guess take complaints, right?
Right.
And then decide whether or not there's been a violation of state law?
Right.
Okay.
Whether it's more likely than not. It's really our it's really our job to try and connect the dots between the adverse act and what happened, how you were discriminated against, why you were discriminated against, and you know who did that.
Right.
So it's really our job to kind of connect the dots there and determine whether that's most likely that did occur or didn't occur. You know, we'll interview witnesses. We have subpoena power as well.
Oh, okay.
So we'll go ahead and subpoena records so that we can look at, you know, employee lists, we can look at HR records, we can look at any number of information in order to make a determination.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I want to come back and talk about a little bit different topic, maybe the outreach that you do to the public and how that work goes. But you've heard it straight from Dr. Warren. They are the Perry Mason of civil rights violations. So we're looking forward, and if you've got enough time to come back, I sure would appreciate another segment with you.
Absolutely.
All right.
I would look forward to it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rod.
I'm Ann Littlefield,
I'm Claudia Kehoe.
and we're here to represent the Food Bank of Central and Northeast Missouri. Over half of the Missouri students qualify for free or reduced lunches at school during the week.
But on the weekends, many children go home to empty refrigerators.
The Food Bank provides buddy packs, backpacks full of nutritious food, so over 6,600 hungry children have food on the weekends.
But the need is much greater. Will you help?
When you adopt a buddy, you reach out to a child in need. Your 50 cents a day will make a difference in a child's life.
Visit www.sharefoodbringhope.org or call the Food Bank, 573-474-1020 to adopt a buddy.
Hi, and welcome back to the Rod Chapel Show. Today we've got a very interesting and dynamic guest, Dr. Warren with the Missouri Human Rights Commission, and we've just been talking about an overview of what the Human Rights Commission does, the Commission on Human Rights, how it functions, its mission, as well as the act that it is vested with the power to determine whether violations have occurred. And so now we're going to talk about some of the outreach issues, if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So not only do you go and do the Perry Mason side, where you decide who's done the violation and what occurred, but you also try to do some preemptive things, right?
Absolutely.
Can you tell us about that?
Definitely. It's an important part of what we do because so oftentimes people think of the Missouri Commission on Human Rights as the hammer.
Right.
You know, we're here to enforce. You never want to get a letter from Dr. Warren, you're like, oh no, what do we do? So this is, and yesterday was a good case in point. We did a all-day training with the bank, and we would talk to all of their management staff about various issues through our training institute, various issues related to sexual harassment prevention, diversity and inclusion. We did EEO, and we also did, there was one other section, I can't remember what it was, but we train all over the state and provide those services. Implicit bias, fair housing, disability awareness was the other one that we did.
Wow.
And it's an important part of what we do because it helps prevent discrimination at its source. So if managers and supervisors understand what their responsibilities are,
right,
or if landlords understand what their responsibilities are, they're less likely to break the law.
That's right.
Because I believe people aren't inherently evil. They're not trying to break the law typically.
Right.
They just really don't know.
Yes.
So we're trying to help people understand what the law says so that they don't get that letter from me in the mail.
That's great. Well, now you've got, I was just kind of counting them up, maybe around 2,000 complaints roughly a year.
Yeah.
You've got 30 staff folks roughly. But then you go all around the state doing training too?
We do. We're a busy little office.
You've got to
We
be.
really are. We're everywhere.
Wow.
It's awesome work. One of the things that helps us is our partnerships.
Okay.
We couldn't do a lot of this outreach without our partners.
Okay.
And we have, whether it's a state, local, or federal partner, we work directly with the state local human rights commissions.
Okay.
Jefferson City has a human rights commission.
Right.
Columbia has a human rights commission. Fulton, Ferguson. We're doing a lot of work in Ferguson with their human rights commission.
That's good.
As you know, they've had a lot of attention.
Nationwide.
It has national level attention on it.
Yeah.
We're working closely with their human rights commission to do programming in their community to help raise awareness about human rights in their community. All over the state, there are small, in Kansas City, there's Lee Summit and Independence, have human rights commissions. So we work very closely to try and provide resources and assistance wherever we can for those smaller agencies that don't have the enforcement authority that we have as the state. And on the flip side of that, we work directly with the federal government. So we have a work sharing agreement with HUD, which is the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development.
Okay.
And we also have a work sharing agreement with the EEOC, which is the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission.
Okay.
And that is a wonderful thing. We've had that over 20 years now. And what that does is help reduce the need for individuals to have to file at this place and that place and this place. It really does reduce the amount of paper and resources. Everyone is trying to do more with less.
Right.
And so if you file a housing complaint with the Missouri Commission on Human Rights, it is duly filed with HUD automatically.
Okay.
And the same is true with an employment case. If you file with the EEOC, it's duly filed with MCHR automatically. Okay. So, and then we'll investigate it or they will investigate it, and we work together to not duplicate efforts so that we're able to achieve the best bang for our buck, really. So we won't be investigating the same set of facts.
Well, that's just smart.
Yeah,
that's
it's
just
smart business.
And has that been going on for a long time?
A long time. I want to say over 20 years, in the 90s,
Okay.
I think is when we originally instituted that agreement. And it's worked very well for us. And we actually contract with those two federal agencies in order to do this work. So they actually provide a big portion of our budget.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah,
That's great,
yeah.
because with the lack of resources that we see on the state level, that's got to be very important.
It's very, very important to us. And we also partner with our federal partners and local partners for training. So we'll go to these local areas and provide training for their commissioners to help them understand what the law says and what their role might be in that, and to help them understand what the investigation process looks like once it hits the Missouri Commission on Human Rights desk.
Right.
Where does it go? What happens? So that they're the boots on the ground. They're the folks that know the people in their community that have been injured or discriminated against.
Right.
So it's important that they understand how the process works.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, and so in St. Louis and Kansas City, you've got entities there that can take a complaint and might work with the commission to
Yes.
resolve that complaint?
We have close partners at the city level who have enforcement authority, both in St. Louis and Kansas City. And the Kansas City is the Kansas City Human Relations Department, or KCHRD. They have enforcement authority in the city proper, Kansas City proper, where we're statewide. They do it. Investigate city discrimination.
Gotcha.
And the same is true for St. Louis. There is an organization called CREA, which is the Civil Rights Enforcement Agency, and they investigate complaints in St. Louis City.
Ah, okay.
Right. And we work closely with those agencies as well.
And when we say enforcement authority, they've got the ability to what? Issue subpoenas, make determinations?
They do. They can work to investigate a complaint completely.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Gotcha. But
yeah.
other jurisdictions like Jefferson City, for example,
No.
we have a commission, but our commission doesn't do any violation determination, right?
No, typically the smaller local commissions, anything outside of St. Louis and Kansas City's offices, do not have that enforcement authority. I would say with one caveat, the city of Columbia has in their ordinance, and they're very progressive really in Columbia with their Human Rights Commission, because they have, I think, the ability to enforce damages up to $1,000, which is unique to them.
Right.
And they also have LGBT protection in the city of Columbia, the city of St. Louis, and the city of Kansas City.
Right.
At the state, we're still sort of waiting for that law to expand to kind of catch up with the rest of the country,
Right.
that really is looking to expand protections for the LGBT community across the board, because it's my personal belief that no one should be discriminated against, and LGBT is no different.
Right.
So, but our laws have not quite caught up to that yet, but we're hopeful. There's been some great moves to get that done.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, and tell us about some of the partnerships that you do some training through those. Is that a joint training, or do they help you get connected with folks or entities that need the training?
Both
Okay.
of those. They typically, some of the local commissions might ask us to come in and train their commissioners, who, like our commissioners, are volunteers. They're individuals who are interested and passionate about human rights, but they need training on what the law says, what the process is. What do I do or say when my neighbor says, hey, you know what? I was fired because I'm, pregnant.
Right.
What do I do about that, Commissioner Warren? How do I handle that? And so they understand really what that citizen needs to do, and so we connect them with those resources. So it really is a win-win for everybody.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And you mentioned that that the Commission on Human Rights is actually a commission.
Yeah.
You're the executive director. Is
I
that
am.
right?
I
Right.
am.
Okay. And so we've got a number of other folks, staff, and that do some investigations, and you do some training yourself, right?
Oh, absolutely. I do a lot of training.
In the commission, how many commissioners does the Human Rights Commission have?
We have 11 commissioners.
Wow,
We
okay.
do. So they are appointed by the governor.
Okay.
And they are volunteers, as I said before. So they volunteer their time and their talent.
Right.
And we're very fortunate to have some wonderful commissioners with a vast variety of expertise, from law enforcement to teachers to all types of folks who are interested and passionate about human rights. And the process is a simple one. Really, you can go out onto the state of Missouri's website, under the governor's website for boards
sure.
and commissions.
Uh-huh.
And you can sign up there to be appointed to our commission or any others. But so that process is online.
Okay.
And right now, we actually have some vacancies.
Do you really?
We do. And we would love to have some new folks on board who are passionate about human rights and want to do some work with us. That we have vacancies in, I think there are 5 or 6 vacancies. So,
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. We're really anxious to get some of those filled.
That sounds like an invitation.
It
so
is
if
an
one of our
invitation.
viewers would be interested in applying,
Absolutely.
they should just go to the governor's website for
Boards
the state
and
of Missouri.
commissions.
Boards and commissions.
Yes.
Fill out the application.
Yeah.
And maybe even talk with one of their local elected officials, a state rep or state
Right.
senator,
Right.
and see if they can get that process started.
Right, absolutely.
That'd be
And
great.
if you call boards and commissions, they're very helpful as well. You can talk to them about how the process works, but
Yeah.
it's a good thing, and it's always exciting to work with people who love this work like I do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, that's what it takes for a volunteer.
It does. You have
Right.
to love what you're doing.
You better.
You have to love what you're doing, because you're not getting paid for it.
Hey. And there was a time when I was in state government and we used to say the same thing.
Yeah. No comment.
All right, that's fine, that's fine. Some of the training institutes that you do, now I would just presume that we talk about diversity, right?
Yeah.
And you mentioned pregnancy discrimination.
Yeah.
That seems to be one that a lot of people don't really pick up on.
They really don't. They really don't. You know, it's not you know, you have that, you know, you're pregnant only for a set amount of time, but it's interesting, particularly in say, home loans.
Right.
We've seen a trend where the lending industry might deny a home loan to a woman who's pregnant because they believe that she will not return back to work after she delivers the baby.
Good grief.
And so that's very discriminatory and very stereotypical.
That's terrible.
You know,
Yeah.
to treat women that way. And so, you know, that's something that we've looked at and worked with, you know, other partners on. And so it's that sort of thing where you see some areas that you wouldn't maybe think of
Right.
as a violation of the law, but really are.
Well, that's why it's important to have professionals that actually
Yeah.
are reviewing this, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And another thing about pregnancy discrimination, I don't know whether it's pregnancy or where this would actually fall in. I understand that there's a new law that if a mom wants to feed her baby and have an opportunity to do that at work, that she should have a facility to do that in, right?
Yeah.
Do you get very many complaints about that?
We have not yet. We
Wow.
have not yet. Not
Well,
too many.
Maybe this is an opportunity. If you know somebody who's got a complaint about discrimination,
Yeah.
they should call the information that's going to be provided in the show, right?
Right. They absolutely should.
Okay. Well, I tell you what, we're going to come back, if it's all right with you, and talk about some of the outcomes of these cases.
Okay, great.
All right? So thanks for joining us for another segment of the Rod Chapel Show. We're looking forward to coming back with Dr. Warren and talking about what actually comes out of these investigations and what a person might expect.